thank you very much for coming along, and thank you so much for people who come along early. That really helps. We know we hadn't, but if people do come along later on, help them move in and help them find a space, because not everyone can get here early. So it's if you just let people come in and be accommodating, because people sometimes travel. So let me just get to control the slides. So I'm Roy Harrow, so chair of this group. So DevSecOps group, if you've not come across us before, we've got, this is about the, so this is our web page on the BCS. If you've not been there before, it's really easy to find. You go to Google and you type in BCS DevSecOps group and follow your nose, and then you can get to this page here. And the great thing about this page, I'm going to go back, at the bottom of this page will be links to our meetings. You can see the past meetings as well as the future meetings. Most of our meetings are recorded. And most of the meetings will have copies of slides. We're going to do both of those for this meeting tonight. So if you have to rush off, or if you just want to go back and look at it again, that should be there. It won't come out immediately. It'll take a week or two to come out, because BCS have to process it, and they're very busy people. So that's the sort of beginning part. And so a little bit about the DevSecOps specialist group. So there's lots of words on there, but I'm going to summarize it in a sentence or two. So the way I position our group is we're trying to help bring together those folk who are working on the sort of applications development, systems development, engineering side of the world, with those folk who are working more on the security side of the world, to try and get each to understand each other. Yeah, because I'm a security person. I used to be an applications development person a very long time ago, and there are different pressures on those different communities. And what we're trying to do is help people understand that we're all working together for the same goal. We want to develop applications and do engineering which is safe and secure enough is how I would put it. Yeah. So DevSecOps is a whole discipline. Sam's going to give us a little bit of chat about it, so I won't explain what that is, because Sam's going to cover that a little bit in a moment. But it's all about the sort of intersection of automation and improved. Lots of changes that happen within the software development world over the last probably 10 years, where automation has come along, new processes have come along, agile's happening out there in the world of software development life cycles and so forth. And the response to that is companies are developing and deploying systems at huge rates of knots. So you'll find organizations like Netflix will be deploying many, many new versions of applications during each day, not just once a month or once a week. And the reason they're doing that is because they're actually deploying little bits of the application during the day, not all of it. So they'll be deploying little parts. Some people call those microservices. I don't really care what you call them, but little bits of the application will be going out each day, and they'll be using automation. You can't do this without automation. You couldn't possibly have people out there doing what people call ClickOps, which is manually deploying things, copying things onto servers. You've got too many servers to deploy to, doing it at such a fast rate. So the world of DevOps came along to try and support this desire to push things out quickly. Then the second part of DevSecOps came along to then try and make sure that when you are doing that, you're doing that in a secure way. So I'll let Sam explain that a lot better than me and everything else. So that's the sort of so we meet every 1 or 2 months each year during the year, and we've had talks on lots of different topics. We've got one coming up the next one is in March on observability and visibility. If you don't know what those topics are about, it's really just making sure you're keeping on top of things. Tonight, we're really, really fortunate to have Sam, who looks after the OWASP group in London and across the UK, and he's going to tell us a bit about the services that OWASP offer. And the great thing about OWASP offerings is they are absolutely free. You can join, as Sam will tell you, but OWASP have a really, so the intersection between our objectives and OWASP is huge. So we want to encourage people to use this kind of technology. We want to point people in the right direction as to where they can go and get help, advice, technology if it's available. So that's why we've asked Sam to come along here to come and share some of the experience that OWASP have. And I'm sure he'll encourage people, if you want, to come and join some of those projects. So thank you very much, and I'll hand over to Sam.
Thank you. Let me just see if I can share my screen now and see if this works.
No, stop. You grabbed it. Wonderful.
Right?
You know it.
Yeah, am I on the screen?
You are?
Hey, awesome. So, hello, welcome everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. So this presentation is a showcase. I'm going to showcase lots of things that some of you may know and some of you may not know, but I hope they're all going to be very, very useful for you. So as Royce mentioned, my name is Stepanyan. I'm in application security. Well, originally I'm a developer, software developer, just like Roy came from software development background. Currently, I work as an application security consultant and architect as my daytime job in financial services in the city of London. I used to be based in this building, but now literally around the corner. So I moved in from software development to application security in 2006. I've been a BCS member since 2005, so 20 years of BCS. It's a wonderful group. And before this group existed, there were two other groups that have been attending the meetups here. And one was called Information Security Special Interest Group. And another one is called SPA, or Software Practice Advancement Group. I highly encourage you to check them out as well if you're interested in software security. I've been leading OWASP London Chapter since 2015, volunteering because everyone at OWASP is a volunteer, and actually I got elected to the OWASP Global Board last year. I have a online presence on social media, not much on LinkedIn, but please do connect with me on LinkedIn if you want. Originally started from Twitter, but following the Elon Musk acquisition, there was a exodus of
basically now it's blue sky. Now it's blue sky.
Now I'm also available on Mastodon and Blue Sky, and you can follow me because I have a my handle, my nickname called Secure Step 9. Easy to follow. The reason why I'm called Secure Step 9 is actually quite funny because someone mispronounced my surname once, and I'm like, okay, I like it. And the reason for that, because if you remember the NCNC at the beginning, they released a document called 10 Steps to Cybersecurity. And I'm like, I'll be step 9. It's like, and then you need to do one more step to cybersecurity. So what is OWASP? OWASP is a nonprofit. Again, the abbreviation means Open Web Application Security Project, but we changed it recently because we were like, what, web? And it's like, no one talks about web anymore. So we said, okay, we're actually a worldwide application security project. We're a non-profit foundation founded in the United States. And our mission is to improve security of software. And the way how we're doing it is using community-led open source software projects. Our community, hundreds of chapters worldwide. We have tens of thousands of community members, all volunteers, and we're also hosting local global conferences. So if you see, we have like 3 main pillars of OWASP is open source tools, guidelines, standards, books, community, the chapters, and the conferences. We usually have 3 global conferences a year, one in USA, one in Europe, and one in Asia. In Europe, we're actually going to have a global conference in May in Barcelona, in case if you're interested in joining or presenting. So that's the map where we are. Lots of countries, lots of groups, over 100,000 volunteers worldwide. So that's why we changed from world to worldwide. In the UK, we also have OWASP presence. Funny enough, when I asked ChatGPT, DeepSeek, and I asked another one, so basically 3 different models. I asked them, can you draw me a map of the UK and put the cities on the map? It failed miserably. It showed a horrible blob, which kind of looked like Northern Ireland with all the cities kind of bunched up around Belfast. I don't know why, because some of these are actually not cities, because we have, for example, Dorset chapter and Suffolk chapter, but they're kind of breaking our naming convention because we had regional chapters and then we switched to city chapters, and now we still have some regional chapters remaining. But obviously, if you are, for example, from Birmingham or from Manchester or Bristol, right, or Reading or Warwick, there are chapters close to you. So you don't have to take a train to come to London to join our community. But obviously, I lead OWASP London chapter. We are on Meetup. I'm not sure how many of you use Meetup as an app. We are also on Eventbrite, Google, LinkedIn, all the social media, Twitter, Facebook, you name it. If you Google OWASP London, you'll find it. We run regular meetups in London, which are similar events where we usually have 2 speakers and food and drink, where you can learn about application security. So it looks a bit like this. Our largest meetup was at Amazon Prime Video offices, where we hosted 300 people turned up, which was quite phenomenal. I'm running out of space in London to host meetup. So if any of you work for a company which has a space like this that can host 200 people, please come and talk to me. I need venues. Right. We also run something called Capture the Flag tournaments or secure coding tournaments. And again, if you are a developer yourself or you have developers within your organization, please do join, because we run this tournament once a year. And where developers compete to find vulnerabilities in someone else's code. And the more vulnerabilities they find, the more points they score. And then we have a leaderboard. And then we have prizes, and we have sponsors donating lots of prizes. So, for example, you can see the prizes range from a drone. As you can see, there was a Wi-Fi kettle, there's some books, and there's a bottle of whiskey that someone donated, and everybody loved the whiskey bottle for some reason. That was quite a good prize. Now, most people know about OWASP from OWASP Top 10. Okay, and OWASP Top 10, lots of people think that this is some sort of compliance standard or a kind of a checkbox exercise. Which it isn't at all. So if a vendor tells you that they sell you a product which is OWASP Top 10 compliant or OWASP compliant or can deal with OWASP threats, please send them away, because first of all, we are a friendly community, we don't threaten everyone. And now OWASP Top 10 is an awareness document. It exists there. It's a marketing gimmick, which actually worked very well over the past 25 years, because the founders of OWASP were trying desperately to bring the attention of the board 25 years ago to vulnerabilities. So it's like, look, application vulnerabilities, you have to pay attention. It's like, yes, there's stuff like malware and ransomware, but there's another big threat. There are vulnerabilities in your software, in your applications. It was very, very difficult to convince them to listen. And then they came up with this idea saying, let's just give them top 10 most critical things they should start from, right? And this is what OWASP Top 10 is. It's a starting point. It's a white paper. It's not a standard. We make changes. So the top 10, the list of the risks in OWASP Top 10 is compiled from the data. So we do a public and open source data call. So anyone who has vulnerability data, please donate it to us. I'll analyze it, and we will compile the next OWASP Top 10 list based on that data. I don't want to talk too much about the OWASP Top 10, but again, it's not some magical thing. Say, oh, OWASP came up with a new OWASP Top 10, which we release every 3 to 4 years. Right? So the last one was in 2021. So there's going to be another one this year. But no, the data is open source, everything open source. Everyone who wants to participate and has something to say, you can collaborate and contribute your data. Your opinion will be heard. Now, OWASP, OWASP's main kind of pillar is our projects, which are free and open source. We have over 250 of them. So top 10 is just 1 out of 250. So we're not all about OWASP Top 10. As you can see, it's split into 3 pillars. So we have like flagship projects. So flagship projects are usually of critical importance to OWASP, which OWASP spends a lot of effort improving and promoting, and of production quality. Then we have lab projects, which are kind of not quite there to be in the flagship, but they are experimenting and they're doing really well. And then we have incubator projects, and incubator projects basically something that anyone can start and anyone can then donate the project to OWASP, and there is basically no criteria there, no red tape for you to enter as an incubator project. You can obviously, all the projects you can access at owas.org/projects. Now let's move about DevSecOps. This is a DevSecOps meetup, and a lot of people are trying to understand what DevSecOps is. 10 years ago, there was a lot of conversation about is it DevSecOps? Is it SecDevOps? Is it DevOpsSec? And different people put different meanings into this. But what I want to say is the deep roots of DevSecOps and OWASP is sometimes I said OWASP was the organization who put Sec into DevOps, security into DevOps. And most of you know Dennis Cruz, who is one of our prominent application security leaders and OWASP Global Board members, is a London-based guy who used to be a CISO at Holland & Barrett and a few other organizations. He's now doing his own he writes books. So he wrote a book in 2015, 2016 called Sec DevOps Risk Workflow, and where he was asking all the interesting questions, like, how do I get my manager to take security issues seriously? It's like, how do I get to spend time on non-functional requirements and refactoring? It's like, we're a product-driven development team. We don't have to anything. It's not customer-driven, right? We know our current development, testing, and deployment environment is inefficient, but how can we prove it to our management? And we constantly do hacks and compromises before deadlines, but we cannot measure the real impact, and they always tend to be a false economy, right? So this was a fascinating revolutionary group at the time, and a book at the time. And if you're interested, it's actually also free and open source, just like everything. So if you go to github.com, Dennis Cruz, you will find the book and the source code for the book over there. It's an interesting read. It's actually an unfinished book. It's like 64% finished. Now, as Roy was saying at the beginning, there are different interpretations, and kind of accepted thing is it an integration of security practices and culture into the DevOps processes as a shared responsibility? Is it an approach which embeds security practices and tools into each phase of DevOps pipeline? Or is it people, process, technology? And the age-old problem that we're trying to solve. And lots of people trying to squeeze security into different part of the DevOps loop. And then this is kind of the reg diagram is overarching. So, and a lot of people tend to say, okay, where do you put security? And this is what the example that I like a lot is when you talk about bringing security in your DevOps, it's like, do not sprinkle it on top, bake it in. So security is something you have to bake in. Don't sprinkle it on top. So there is a brilliant book written about DevSecOps from an amazing guy, Glenn Wilson, who runs the DevSecOps meetup London. I have a copy of this book here, and the person who asked me the most interesting question will get it as a prize. And it's signed by the author. The book is signed. And here, Glenn is talking about the 3 layers of DevSecOps, which is education, secure by design, and automation. Now, this is a slide that usually exists in many cybersecurity related presentations. And as you remember, if I go a few slides back where we have actually the stages, right? The life cycle. So we have to do plan, code, build, test, release, deploy, operate, and monitor, right? So all of that is software development lifecycle. The problem with security vulnerabilities is the early, if you find them late, right? Depends on which phase you find the vulnerability, it will cost you significantly more. So if you find the vulnerability at design phase, statistically will only cost you $80 to fix, and it gets more expensive. And if you find vulnerability in production, once it's there running and you have real customers using your system, and there's a security vulnerability, that's the most expensive. So it goes on the scale. So the source for this financial data is actually Ponemon Institute. So they've done a study. Now, as you can see, probably trying to figure out where to start from security. Okay, so what is great about OWASP tools is that they're all in open source. We do have tools that you can integrate into your CI/CD pipelines. We have standards and guidelines which will help you be secure by design. We have lots of education, training tools and resources that you can download, give to your team. We have things like games that you can give to developers who can actually learn by playing. That's very, very cool. And because it's all free, you can do it all with a budget of $0, right? Just a reminder that the latest OWASP Top 10 from 2021. So these are all the things that you should be starting from if you don't know where to start in your security. And this is the most prominent security risks. And 2021, we intentionally injected something called insecure design because you can't tick the box, right? So everything else will say, hey, I have a product which addresses broken access control. I have a product which only gives you SSL, right? It's kind of the anti-vendor move. So we have insecure design as one of the most critical risks in top 10. And it's very important to separate the insecure design versus implementation because the design flaws and the implementation defects are different. They have different root causes and different remediation because if you have a secure design, you design something securely, it can still have implementation defects which lead to vulnerabilities. But an insecure design cannot be fixed by an implementation. There's no way you can take an insecure design and implement it in such a way which will make it more secure. So if there were no security controls created to secure it in the first place, then you can't bolt in something. So this is why we have it there. And
one of the most horrific things I ever heard was someone saying, just get it working, we'll worry about security afterwards.
Yeah. So there you go. And yeah, so this is a new category, which is in the latest OWASP Top 10. We'll see if it comes back in 2025. But as you can see, there are CWEs. I think in the previous talk that we had, this was focusing a lot on CWEs. So you can see there are numerous common weakness enumerations from NIST, from US government who sets the standards on this, which are related to insecure design. So you can see this thing. Insufficiently protected credentials, trust boundary violation, unprotected storage of credentials. There's lots of data breaches I hear about because of this one. So what projects we have at OWASP which can help you address secure by design? Number one is something called Software Assurance Maturity Model, or SAM, OWASP SAM. So it is a general software assurance maturity model, and it will help organizations to analyze their current practices and build the program in iterations. And it allows you to show progressive improvements and most importantly, define and measure your security-related activities. If you've never heard of it, I urge you to go and check it out. We have another maturity model, which is very important to this group. So we do have inside the software assurance maturity model a special place for secure architecture. So if you want to start learning how to be secure by design, please do start on the secure architecture practice as described here in this model. And there are different maturity levels. You can see there's level 1, 2, and 3, right? So which will tell you where to start, how to progress, and how to mature. And the next maturity model that we have is OWASP DevSecOps maturity model, which is specifically focusing on DevSecOps practices. Software assurance, it was generic application security. ESOM is probably the project you've never heard about. It's not a project which is being mentioned everywhere, but it should be because everyone's talking about DevSecOps. And You're like, well, how do I measure maturity? Are we doing the right thing? So please do check out this one. It's absolutely an awesome project. The next project you probably never heard of. It's very important for Secure by Design. It's called OWASP Security RAT. They have a logo of a rat, but nothing to do with a rat. It stands for Requirements Automation Tool. And this is a tool which allows you to define your security requirements. And this was created many years before ChatGPT. I'm guessing nowadays you can do it with ChatGPT. But the idea of Security RAT is that you define what software you are trying to build, what are you developing, and it will try to generate the security requirements for you. And then it will, it has some extra features. For example, you can put them in Jira tickets for you, for example, and you can see the progress in terms of getting on with your requirements. So again, unsung hero of OWASP Security RAT. The next one, which is very important nowadays, lots of people doing agile style development, is OWASP User Security Stories. As we know, the biggest problem with software development, because developers don't code things securely, and how can we get them to code things securely? And the thing is, we'll use a method called injection, and that's backlog injection. So you can do this fantastic project, which has all the user stories related to security with acceptance criteria, and you can available free and open source. If you go to GitHub or OWASP's GitHub account, get user security stories, and you can just download that list and inject it straight into whatever you're using, Jira or any other tool for your stories and epics and your agile development, and developers will instantly see the security related stories in their backlog. But that's not all. That's from there's a user side of security, but there's also an attacker side of security. And we have something called OWASP Abuse Case Cheat Sheet, which is also called attacker stories. So this is something that developers usually never think about. So they abuse stories say, as an attacker, I will perform an injection attack against input fields or of your UI or API. As an attacker, I have access to millions of stolen usernames and password combinations, and I can perform credential stuffing on your application, right? So you can see how useful this is, because straight away you can take the attacker stories, again, injecting your backlog, and developers who are usually working on stories saying the application should have a login screen. The login screen should have two fields, username and password. If a user enters the correct username and password and clicks the submit button, they're logged in. If they enter incorrect password, they will get an incorrect login message, right? That's the typical user story that the developer gets. But they don't get these stories, which are in this case all related to the authentication and login screens, which will help them understand the attacks and code defensively. So this is one of the coolest projects. And obviously the attacker stories that you see here also called threat modeling, because it's a process for developers to analyze what can possibly go wrong and what can they do about it. So for threat modeling, we have several projects, but this cute little dragon is the one that I hope you will remember, take pictures of it. We have a diagramming tool, threat dragon, again, in open source, cross-platform modeling tool. It works on anything, Mac, Windows, Raspberry Pi. So it can, it's a diagramming and rule agent, which can auto-generate the threats and mitigations for you, and creates your threat model diagram as an XML or JSON file. So it's again, very, very useful thing. And I find it from diagramming perspective, I think it's quite useful. Another very cool thing to mention about Threat Dragon. I don't know how many of you use Microsoft threat modeling tool, which is, I find very confusing, because it doesn't come with any examples. If you get Threat Dragon, it comes with a templates that you can see. If you have a web application, this is what it looks like. If you have a mobile application, these are your data boundaries, these are your users, and these are those that you will be concerned with. Another project that we have is called OWASP Threat Modeling Playbook, which I think again is quite useful on how to get threat modeling into your organization. So it talks about how do you start threat modeling, you need to get the buy-in from people, allocate time, show return on investment, embed threat modeling, train the people to use threat modeling, strengthen and innovate. So it's kind of a maturity model for threat modeling by itself. However, the best project, which I think if you want to take away something from this talk, is this project, OWASP cheat sheets. That it's our unsung hero. It's a cheat sheet for every single case. Right.
Nice.
So I was at the NDC developer conferences early today and yesterday, and I showed it to developers, and they absolutely loved it because it's one thing to give the developers a book or the PDF file like Secure Coding Guide, which we do have. They have something called Secure Developer Guide, but it's a long document, right? So it has like hundreds of pages. These are condensed cheat sheets, which are specifically focusing on use cases. So what are you trying to do? You're trying to do authentication, authorization. Are you trying to access control? Which programming language are you working in? You're working in PHP? Are you working in .NET framework? What are the security considerations you as developer have to think about? And you download it all in one searchable cheat sheet. I can maybe open it and show you cheat sheets series. Yeah, actually, the login cheat sheet is one of the most popular one because again, how many developers know which events in the application they're supposed to log for security purposes? So when a security incident happens and you're trying to do some investigation, incident response, and the first question asked is, do we have the logs? And you don't have the logs if no one logged it. Yes, they
Sam, can you just click on the LDAP injection prevention, please?
Okay. Yeah, there's another cheat sheet. There you go. And I think last time I counted, there were 94 cheat sheets. They're all bite-sized ones, so they're very easy to consume, very easy to search. For example, I search for JWT. There you go. I have my REST security cheat sheet and everything about how to work with JSON Web Tokens securely. You want to know how to do secrets management? There you go. They have secret management. You want to know how to deal with SQL injection? There you go. That's a SQL injection. You don't have to read the book. You don't have to complete a training course. Just give this to your developers, and they will thank you for this. So yeah, please do use this project. This is probably one of the most brilliant things that developers can use. Cheat. Time is short. Cheat. We do have a secure design cheat sheet. So if you don't know how to do secure design, you can cheat there as well. So again, it's brilliant because way before AI, we've got some brilliant people who got together and decided, okay, how do we summarize and explain this to developers in the shortest possible form? So there you go. Check it out. Now, as I mentioned, OWASP Top 10 is not a security standard. Do not use it as a standard. Do not use it as a checkbox exercise, because we actually have an actual standard called OWASP ASVS, or Application Security Verification Standard. That is what you should be using. This is the one which actually has checkboxes here. There's lots of checkboxes here, right? Plenty of them to check, but some of them is going to be challenging for you to tick all these boxes, because again, there are 3 different levels there. That should be your, if you are developing web applications. We have a version for it for mobile apps. So if you are involved in mobile app development, there's a mobile application security verification standard, but also mobile application security testing guide. We also have a web app testing guide. But I think nowadays, most people just give it to the pen testers. But again, if you have testers within your organization and they're just doing a general QA, how do you know how to test your web app or your mobile app? So we have some amazing guys who can, these standards and these guidelines, again, all open source, free to download, and they're available as a PDF document as well. You don't have to go and download bit of it from GitHub, even though it is available on GitHub. Another standard which is little known, is getting a bit aging now. This year is 2019, but this is container security verification standard. How many of you are using containers, Kubernetes, right? Building containerized applications, right? How do you know you build your containers securely? Right? How do you know? You know the Docker file is the it's Pandora's box of vulnerabilities if you don't know what's in it and how it's being built. So there you go. We do have a CSV standard. I do admit it's out of date because we need people to contribute and to expand it, because nowadays there are things like new versions of Kubernetes which improve things, but still, if you want that checkbox exercise, look. Checkbox it is, right? That people love. There you go. Go and use it to verify the security of your containers. Another top 10 that is actually the most useful top 10 for developers. It's not the regular OWASP top 10. It's something called OWASP top 10 proactive controls, because regular top 10 is a list of security risks, right? But can we get developers to understand risks? It's still an ongoing debate. However, proactive controls are things that you can do proactively. And there's things like define your security requirements, leverage security frameworks and libraries, secure your database, encode and escape all data, validate all inputs, right? They should be like, the mantra of all developers: validate all inputs, implement digital identity correctly, enforce access controls, protect data everywhere, wherever it is, implement security logging and monitoring, and handle all errors and exceptions correctly and safely. So that is the top 10 commandments, proactive controls that you should be giving to the developers, not things like SQL injection and LDAP injection, because it's something that is not in their blood to understand that, read that risk document, but they will understand. These are the things that they should be doing. Another very useful document you don't know about is OWASP Code Review Guide. It's very useful. Everyone is supposedly reviewing their code. Are you reviewing your code for security vulnerabilities? Do you know how to do it? Right? We have a free and open source document. Go and download it and use it. The next one, as I mentioned before cheat sheets. Some people learn from cheat sheets, some people prefer a book. So we have a book. We have OWASP Developer Guide, which is available to download as PDF. And it's a living document. There are new releases constantly happening. So please do contribute to it if you've done some secure coding practices and guidelines in your own organization. But this is kind of an extract of everything that we had before. It mentions all the projects I mentioned as well. So it does list all the tools. You will find the things like QTRAD, SVS, and mobile application security verification standard references as well. The next project, I'm not sure how many of you know about, people who work with SBOM, is Cyclone DX. So OWASP Cyclone DX is a bill of materials standard, not just software, it also SaaS bill of materials, operational bill of materials, and we now even have an AI or machine learning bill of materials. It has a cryptography bill of materials, which gives you information. It allows you to build your inventory on your SSL certificates, the ciphers that they use, bill of materials, right? So it's very, very useful. And recently we have a new update on it. We can also do attestations. It's not just about software. And I'm very happy to report that last year we had ECMA International, the organization which standardizes JavaScript. Most people know that JavaScript is originally was called ECMAScript, right? Actually accepted Cyclone DX as a standard. So we now, Cyclone DX is the first international standard from OWASP. So definitely check it out if you're doing anything with software bill of materials. Another useful tool for software bill of materials is OWASP Dependency Check, which allows you to scan the applications and find out what kind of dependencies and libraries it uses and what other vulnerabilities that are in there. So it's called software composition analysis tool. It used to download a massive database from NVD, basically every single vulnerability discovered in 2001 until today. Now it's utilizing API, so it's slightly different. So it's quite an old OWASP project, which has been going on for years. So for I think since 2007, I think it's an old good project. But we have an update. So we have a few other scanners. So we have a brand new scanner called OWASP DevScan. This project has been recently donated to OWASP. And it has some amazing features. And it's probably the only open source tool at the moment which does reachability analysis. So as you can see here, it not only tells you about the vulnerable libraries you have. For example, you have lots of Java libraries, but it also tells you if the vulnerability is reachable and if it is actually exploitable. And it actually gives you the correct severity here. So you can see which ones are actually high, critical, or medium. So it's a relatively new project. It only became an OWASP project just over a year ago, I think. It's gaining popularity. So it also can generate software bill of material with VDR, vulnerability disclosure report, and VEX as well. So for those of you who are looking at VEX, it's a topic for a separate conversation, but that's something which is very cool about this project. There is another project which is from the same team called OWASP CDX Gen, which you can integrate in your CI/CD pipelines, and it will generate your software bill of materials. One of the cool quotes that I got here is from Daniel Cuthbert, who is the Chief Information Security Officer of Santander. Generating SBOMs like this in CDX Gen just makes me happy because you find out what you've got, what endpoints are exposed, and all the juicy stuff you need to know. Because this tool is really, really cool because it actually tells you
before fixing them.
Hmm?
Did he post it before fixing them? Oh no.
There you go. So how do you deal? Because if you do your software bill of materials, so you got all your SBOMs, how do you manage them? Okay. You have all these JSON files with software bill of materials. How can you manage them efficiently? So we have a great project called OWASP Dependency Track. It is a database for all your software bill of materials, which has a dashboard and a search tool as well. It gives you all your inventory. And what is also very interesting, as you know, the problem with software, it tends to rot, right? Every single day that you have software that you're not updating, right? The libraries and components will have vulnerabilities discovered and publicly disclosed. How do you know about that? Right? How do you know there's a new CVE? And even if you find out from television and media, your news groups or whatever you're consuming, there's a new vulnerability in software package affecting everyone. There was a big one about Log4j recently. So, hey, I need to find out, do we have anything in our organization using Log4j? How are you going to do it? Okay. So if you were generating software bill of materials and putting them into dependency track, it's very easy. You go and type Log4j, it tells you exactly which projects are using it, which versions are being used, is it affected by the CVE? So, and I repeat again, this is a production level in an enterprise grade level software, which is free and open source. Okay. The next thing, so that we looked at design, we looked at the components. Now let's look at the right-hand side of the loop. How do you protect stuff which is in production? And how do you test stuff which is in production? So we have a project that some people probably know about called OWASP CRS or OWASP Core Movement. Mode security is now actually been donated to OWASP, so it's now an OWASP project under OWASP custodianship. And yeah, we have a whole set of rules for detecting web application vulnerabilities, which is being constantly updated. But not many people know that we actually have the actual web application firewall, which is built to use this kernel set, which is a relatively new project. It's called OWASP Coraza. So it's kind of over, it's on CRS as well. And it's written in Go programming language. And it is a production grade web application firewall, absolutely free, that you can deploy and use. I mean, you knew about this. It has extensive documentation, and it has something called Playground, which allows you to test all the words. So if you never heard it, please definitely utilize it. The next top 10 that I want to talk to you about is API security top 10. So everyone's using APIs these days. We have our phones, which go and connect and pull weather service, Spotify podcasts, or for those of you who drive Tesla cars, you have an app which is using API to control your car. You can open and close doors, turn on and off lights, honk the horn, and a few other interesting things. I have a talk when I talk about API vulnerabilities and API security. But again, these are the top 10 things that you should be paying attention for API security. If you are doing anything with APIs, use this instead of the standard OWASP top 10. We have another top 10 because everyone's talking about AI. And OWASP has managed to do quite a lot in the AI space. And we released OWASP LLM Security Top 10, which is now being used as a guidelines by governments. So we have NIST guidelines, and we have the European CENELEC standards, which are released quoting OWASP LLM Security Top 10 and OWASP AI guidelines. So if you want to know how to implement large language models in your organization security, what you should be concerned with, right? This is the document for you. Then there's another project that you probably never heard of. It's called GenAI-OWASP.org, which is our AI Center of Excellence. So if you're doing anything with AI, we are the go-to place with all the open source knowledge and material. So if you go to GenAI-OWASP.org, you will find lots of guidelines and standards. And another AI-related site is called OWASP AI Exchange and OWASP AI Security and Privacy Guide. Of course, I think one of the previous talks, everyone was talking about how to address AI security, how to address AI privacy in your organization. How can you do it? Where do you start from? We have a guide for it. The latest guides were released, which are very, very fresh, right? Hot off the press. We have a guide to prepare and respond to deepfake events. How many of you had someone calling your help desk with the voice of the CEO saying, this is your CEO speaking, I forgot my password. Can you please tell me my password or transfer $1 million to this account? So how do you deal with deepfakes? If you are an financial company, an insurance company, you authenticate your customers by voice. How can you deal with deepfakes? Well, all the neobanks, the people like Revolut and Monzos and the others, which actually can open your bank account from your mobile phone's app, from the mobile phone screen by taking a picture of you showing your driving license or your passport to the mobile phone camera. There's a huge amount of fraud because of deepfakes. So, and how do you deal with this? So we do have a guide. And hot off the press, literally this is January 23rd. So this is a 1 week old OWASP Gen AI red teaming guide. How do you do red teaming in AI? Usually your red teams do completely different things in the organization, but how do you deal with AI? We do have a guide. This is another very useful site for you. It's owaspai.org or AI Exchange. This is all security threats and controls navigator for AI. And it just brings together as a map all the guidelines, the standards and controls under one roof. The next project I want to talk to you about, I'm not sure how many of you know it, maybe some of you heard about it. It's called OWASP Defect Dojo. So Defect Dojo is a wonderful single pane of glass dashboard, if we talk in marketing speak, but it is on orchestration and vulnerability management. What it allows you to do, it allows you to aggregate security findings from different tools, from open source tools, from lots of commercial tools, and put them all on one dashboard. But before it puts on one dashboard, you can do things like deduplication and your own analysis and your own triage. And then once you analyze them and deduplicated them, you can actually raise the ones that matter to your security teams or your development team using Jira tickets. So it does have integration, and it's getting more and more integrations recently, because we also have like an enterprise version of Defect Dojo available as well. But the main dashboard is available for everyone. Again, it's a free and open source tool. I think that nowadays there's a new terminology, I think, invented by Gartner called Application Security Posture Management, the ASPM. So yeah, that is a free and open source one. Another interesting project I want to bring your attention to is non-technical at all, right? No vulnerabilities. It's a culture. That means, how do you build security culture in your organization? How do you get your developers, your people, to volunteer to become security champions? How do you get the teams to collaborate to work on security challenges together? There you go. There's a document available, and again, it's a collaborative document. Please do contribute if you have some success stories in your organization. We also have people who implement security champions programs within the organization, security champions playbook. If you don't know where to start, how to build a security champions program, there's a playbook. Another project you probably never heard about is OWASP Wrong Secrets projects, right? You store secrets in your code, what can possibly go wrong? So some people got together and decided to build a whole set of challenges and said, okay, well, we'll turn this into a game. And the challenge is you have to find all the hard-coded passwords, all the hard-coded secrets. The more you find, the more points you score, and then you move up on the leaderboard.
So
and then
using for CTF.
it's a CTF. So you can play with your teams, you can play different regions within your organization, of play against other companies. So yeah, it's a fun project. We don't know it, but use it. This is an older project, which also is a CTF and also has a scoreboard. So the OWASP Security Shepherd. So it's a training process. It's a free training in application security. There's lots of lessons. And you can turn it into a tournament mode, and you can see the scoreboard and people score points. Again, absolutely free. You can just deploy it on a virtual machine, inside the network, and start using straight away. Another learning-oriented project is called OWASP WebGoat. So WebGoat is kind of an intentionally vulnerable Java app. We have some versions of it for other languages, but WebGoat is the original Java vulnerable app, which also has lessons in it. There's a lesson mode, so it actually again teaches you. And when you turn it into teaching mode, it has this. The objective is for developers that they can explain the vulnerability, they learn by doing, and they also explain mitigation. So it's not just, there's something called SQL injection, but if you take the OWASP WebGoat lessons, the developers will actually understand the risk. They learn by doing, they learn by fixing the vulnerability, and they will be able to explain the mitigation, what they're doing. I once interviewed a developer, and I asked about SQL injection, and he said, "Oh, you just do parameterized queries." I'm like, okay, but this is what you actually do to mitigate. But why are we doing explain the risk? Couldn't explain the risk, right? So use WebGo to train the developers. Another awesome training tool we have called OWASP Shop, which is intentionally vulnerable JavaScript application. It's a Node.js application. It's just e-commerce shop selling juices, right? So it's a plain words for JavaScript, juice shop. And because the guy who created it is German in Germany, juice shop is kind of a junk shop as well. So absolutely awesome tool which is used by pen testers worldwide. If you want to evaluate your pen testers, if you want to evaluate your WAF, right, this is the probably #1 vulnerable application on the web nowadays. But not many people know that it has a CTF mode, so you can also run it in the capture the flag. It also has leaderboard. And now it has an AI chatbot, and it also has a cryptocurrency challenge, and it even has NFTs in it. It's mind blowing. The team behind this project are so up to date. They're putting up the latest and greatest challenges Okay, Wi-Fi is back.
Well, on this one, Sam, it might not be on yours, so
Right.
Rejoin.
No, it is.
okay, you're back.
I think I need to rejoin the Zoom because I got thrown out of Zoom.
Yeah, my one's come back as well.
Yeah, do you manage to tell to people on the
No, I couldn't do anything because
on the poll that
We can see you.
no, I'm just trying to get back on, then I can let them know.
let's see if I can rejoin. Okay, it says I'm about to rejoin. Wonderful. Yeah. To make me a co-host or
Yeah, so Sam will sort that out. Okay, so look, while we're sorting out the technical issues, so fortunately for you guys in the room, we can still hear Sam. Apologies to the guys online, they can't hear. What I wanted to say was we've got people join. I did a little poll while people were online before we had the little hiccup to sort of see where maybe the furthest person was in terms of geography, in terms of coming to join our meeting by Zoom. We had somebody from Manchester, UK, so reasonable distance. Somebody from Guernsey, not sure which is the furthest away. Paris, France, Chatham, Massachusetts, USA, and Sri Lanka. Now, the guy from Sri Lanka, he's actually one of the people on our committee. And he did say, Roy, do you mind if I go to bed now? Because it's getting very late. It was great that he joined. But so we have had people coming to join us from afar.
1 AM. That wasn't Dennis Groves, was it?
No, it was Gibran. So
Indonesia.
yeah, so we have had people come and join from remotely. I'm going to see if I can get back on and take their questions. But are you happy to take any further questions now, Sam?
I am happy to take
Yeah,
any further
yeah.
questions. And don't forget the
Let me see
person
if
who
I
asks
can
me the
get
best
back on.
question will get the
Yeah, please.
DevSecOps.
Yeah, and
Oh, yeah.
this is a really good book, by the way. If you know, so please ask some challenging questions of Sam.
So, is there any alignment between ISO 27034 and OWASP at some level, or is there a protect?
Yes, well, not on the I'm not sure if there's alignment with the ISO committee, but if you read ISO 27034, it does mention OWASP a lot. So similarly with NIST SP 800 frameworks and the latest NIST AI guidelines. In terms of the alignment, we have another project which I haven't shown, but I will show it. It's something called OpenCRE. And OpenCRE is another interesting project that not many people know about. And OpenCRE is a map which is trying to map different security requirements and security standards, right, into one, because there are so many things which have various references, right? So then you can have let me go and, for example, open an ISO standard versus NIST, right? And it will basically provide you all the mapping. You can map one to another. You can see they all have the numbers. For example, you have different parts of each standard. And usually, for example, if you read pen test reports, at the bottom of the pen test report, you will see references. So let's say references to OWASP. You will see reference to NIST, you will see references to ISO, you will see reference to now ECMA, and there's just too many references. So OpenCRE is that OWASP project that says, okay, we'll create our own taxonomy, we'll create our own number, we call it OpenCRE-number, but that is going to be unique and it will actually provide the mapping to everyone else. So you don't have to 10 different standards and 10 different requirements from 10 different bodies, just map the OpenCRE one. So that's how we do the alignment. That's how we open.
The gentleman was there.
Definitely check it out. So as you can see, this project links all security standards and guidelines together. One harmonized resource for the threats, weaknesses, what to verify, how to program, how to test, which tool settings you need. Everything is in one taxonomy. It's an awesome project. Okay, we had Mr. Shelley.
Question, Sam. What's happened to OWASP Zap? because we don't.
Oh, yeah.
That was at the end that he missed.
Yeah, so unfortunately, OWASP ZAP had a very bit of an interesting story, and sadly, it is, if you search for OWASP ZAP, you will still find it, but it's still on zapproxy.org. Now you can see it has a vendor badge on it, so it's not considered attack proxy, check marks. So basically, the story is that the maintainers of ZAP, they had full-time job. Originally, they were employed by Mozilla Foundation, and their full-time job was to develop ZAP and maintain ZAP and test websites using ZAP. But during the pandemic, there was a round of redundancies, so they found themselves out of job. And because they didn't want to do anything other than ZAP, they're trying to look for places. And one of the places that was found to, which offered them some money, was an organization called OpenSSF. And OpenSSF, as a kind of said, if you come to us, you have to disassociate yourself from OWASP, which they did. And then after 6 months, OpenSSF decided not to support them anymore. And then ZAP ended up with another foundation, which also supported them for a while. And in the end, a vendor, Checkmarks, basically picked them up and said, okay, guys, we want to continue to contribute and collaborate to ZAP, keep it open source. But we're full-time employees of this company now. So
I see a big IPR, Rob. If it was originally open sourced, how could they get away with that?
no, it is open source. It's still open source. Everything's open source. They just maintain it. So, it's like, it's an open source from a company.
Yeah.
So,
Which happens with other open source projects.
a lot of people know Trivi. Trivi is probably one of the most popular open source tool by company, by Aquasec. People use Chekhov, which is open source tool by Palo Alto. It's no longer a non-profit foundation maintained. It's a company maintained open source.
Okay, Sam, I know people might have questions on the tools, but I just wonder, a lot of people here might have used some of the OWASP projects already. And to get people thinking, has anyone used the OWASP projects and maybe got a use case, a scenario where you've used it and you wanted to maybe just to hear how people have used it and whether it's useful, some feedback on people. I mean, for example, where I'm working, we had some people doing some web work. The input validation wasn't as good as it could be. And we were doing some code scanning. We identified the input validation was not good. And I was able to point the guy to the OWASP from the OWASP projects, and he then went and wrote his own little sanitization routine. Which was really good. Yeah. I didn't do it for him. I'm not a coder for that. And he went off and did it, and he did the research. And that was really, really good. So I thought that was a really good outcome. And then he found out how to do it by looking up things on OWASP. So I just wonder if other people tried this.
Again, cheat sheets is probably the place.
It was
to
probably,
look
I think that's what he was using. Yeah.
So it's input validation.
and
There you go. There's a cheat sheet.
Yeah, so there was a cheat sheet for that. So that for me was, that was brilliant. So I just wonder, has anyone else seen people use it or used it yourself?
Verizon, we use and he actually we asked consulting part.
Yeah.
And recently we were engaged by several customers on Gen AI. So we used the top 10.
Top 10 AI.
AI from,
Oh, that's great, isn't it? Yeah.
I did a webinar for information security and I used the.
Yeah. And how, was it useful, and did the people seem to relate to it?
Yeah.
Okay, so these are really good use cases to hear. I think it's nice to hear when other people are using this stuff, because you can read about it, till you blue in the face, but there's some
Question later on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Do I need a mic or just?
No, just shout out.
The lights are in the ceiling.
No. So thanks for that, Sam. I wanted to ask, this might seem quite obvious, a silly question maybe. In the beginning, you talked about that, when in the very beginning, that security used or security used to be completely separate, isn't it? From application side security. But the thing is that during those days when we actually, all those developers really started developing applications in the very beginning, I mean, at that time, didn't anyone think about that? Maybe if let's say if we're making a case would probably need security at some point of the, or some point of the application journey, probably.
To be honest, if you look at these early days, .com boom, everyone was just interested in having an online application to have their own .com, just like now it's with AI.
Yes,
We experience exactly the same thing with AI. It's a gold rush.
yes.
Everyone wants to rush into AI nowadays,
Yeah.
and everyone wanted to rush into .com. Security, we don't care, but functionality. So we have an idea. we'll put it there. So that is one of the reasons, and this is why we have the security issues, because we want to. Lots of companies continue to operate in the same.
I mean, absolutely. And maybe a second question would be, somewhat related to that. So for example, as you know, that nowadays we're having quite a lot of breaches anyway coming along.
Yeah.
Due to any sort of reasons. And in terms of, I think that, especially with the advent of AI as such coming in, I think, don't you think that AI in itself could be a quite big, really useful tool in monitoring that? Because as you know, in the, the main parlance of in cybersecurity is that the attacker has to be only, should
Only
have-
successful ones.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
Only
exactly.
successful
Thank you for
ones,
that.
yeah.
Be
Well,
successful
the defenders
once,
have to be
but
successful every
the
time, yes.
security guys have to be
Okay,
successful 100% at the time.
absolutely agree, and defenders need to use AI because the attackers are using AI.
Yeah.
This is a very good point.
I would just add, the point I made about, the horror story of we'll get something to work and worry about security later. But
That's a
actually
good
stems,
thing,
that
yeah.
actually stems from one of the earliest DevOps meetings I went to. I started joining DevOps meetings literally 10 years ago, 2015, actually probably end of 2014, but at that point, everybody was talking about, oh yeah, use this, use the automated deployment chain, use this, use that, we use this library, we use that library. And the one thing I was always asking was, how do you know you can rely on it? How do you know it's secure? I know these days, the software supply chain, security of the software supply chain is a big thing. It's buzzwords all over the market now. Back then, nobody thought about it. And it was always a case of, oh, we just use it, it won't be a problem.
Totally agree. So what had to happen? Had to be a disruptive event. And a disruptive event was
Yeah.
Log4j.
Exactly so.
Yeah.
And we had a few of.
Before that, there was a SolarWinds, but SolarWinds, people started paying attention. And Log4j happened. The US government issued an executive order obliging organizations to provide software bill of materials with a software that they sell to the US government. So
Yeah, the key point
Just
has to
on
be
that.
people don't start adding protections until something's already gone wrong.
It's now 8 years since Andrew.
That's typical human behavior, isn't it?
It's now 8 years since Andrew Hardy first suggested that.
I think that.
Previous chair.
Yeah.
My question is about the top 10. How do you make it? If it's based on a survey, who received that? Do you use open or closed questions in the survey, and how often you revise the entire? I mean, I know it's like now it's 2021, beforehand 17. Don't you think that maybe it can be like every year and revised and maybe changed if needed? There's always more questions than one.
The problem with this, well, one is resource, because it's quite time consuming to collect and analyze all the data. And it actually takes a year at least to do this. A group of volunteers, remember, no one's having a full-time job.
Yeah.
All volunteers apart from just the skeleton stuff that we have. And the second reason for that is there aren't that many changes every year. So this is why when you look at the OWASP top 10, if I go back to my site, when we do all the mappings, yeah, some things kind of move places and some things are renamed or grouped into more categories, but it's kind of an attempt to kind of fudge it all. If you look at the actual essence of the OWASP top 10 here, you see we have these little arrows, right? Every time there is a new top 10.
Yes,
You will
but
see this comparison
Change.
between the years. So this is
yeah.
2017 versus 2021. You can see things like, oh, if there's something new, right? Oh, this one is new. For example, we had insecure design new. We had the integrity failures new, and we had the SSRF new. Right, so we had some
Yeah.
new things, and the reason is because there was a prevalence, because SSRF existed for 20 years ago, right? It's not a new vulnerability. It became prevalent because everyone started using clouds. And obviously, it can build a very big bridge. You can talk about disruptive event. Capital One bridge with 150 million records, the credit card numbers stolen, and it happened because SSRF was exploited in AWS cloud.
Oh, I remember that one. I remember that breach. That was something.
So this is an event. This is why we have a new entry in OWASP top 10. That doesn't mean this vulnerability didn't exist before. It just became more prevalent. But you will also notice open redirects. Lots of people asking me, what happened to open redirects, right? Because that's what a lot of our malicious sites are using. Because nowadays it's dropped. So it's no longer top 10. It's maybe 11, 12, 13, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's why we're no longer seeing.
Injection attack went down a little bit.
That's right. Because again, there are more frameworks which are ORM frameworks which protect from injection, but for example, access control is now more prevalent because in the days of DevOps, it's very easy to deploy something which accidentally gives access to people that shouldn't have access to.
Okay, it's great. We've got some hands up in the room. I will come back to you, but I just want to give the guys online a chance because they've had a bit of a rough time of it, not when they dropped out. So there are a couple of questions from the people online.
Are you gonna read them out? Or?
Yeah, I'll call them out. So I'll bring them over here so you can see. So we've got one here. Let's come back to it. There's one about the depth.
Sheets I'm seeing.
Okay, so somebody's giving an experience. He says he's used the cheat sheets for educating developers. So that was brilliant. Somebody else wanted to know about the OWASP, said he used OWASP Zap and said that was really good. So we had some good experiences there.
Someone blogged about using OWASP Zap.
Yeah. Somebody else said they were members of the OWASP group at Bristol, so they found that very helpful.
Awesome.
Yeah, and somebody also asked about the depth, the dependency scanner, whether there was an API for that.
So the depth scan.
Yeah, the depth scan.
Yeah. So the depth scan tool is a command line tool.
That's command
So
line.
but if you're looking for API, the dependency track does have an API.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So that's most of the ones that are on here. So somebody had their hands up over there. So yeah.
All over there, by the way.
Since we're on this slide, at my client's organization, there are some stakeholders which do treat the top 10 as a checklist. Which project would you recommend as a gentle introduction for managers about what it actually is and how to use it?
Introduction.
Right. Okay. So if you open OWASP top 10, it starts with saying this is not a checklist. This is not the standard. So as I mentioned during my talk, if you want the proper standard, it should be ASVS. It should be the verification standard. And I think you just need to tell them that they're using the wrong thing because it is not a standard and it's just wrong to use it because you cannot check some of the boxes, right? You cannot check the box on the logging and monitoring that easily, and you completely cannot check the box security design. So there is no vulnerability scanner in the world which can scan your code and confirm that your design is secure, right? That is the gentle way to approach it.
That's the holy grail, basically.
Actually, the case is that most of those pen tests provided by those auditors and the security vendors are based on the OWASP top 10 on this. So there is more or less the de facto standards, and we depends on this for the go live test and also for those annual penetration tests and for example
Which is wrong.
Yeah.
So it's also a marketing trick, right? It looks like it worked.
Does OWASP have any change of the game plan with those security vendors in order to shift to the OWASP ASV?
So there is a shift to ASVS, and we need to make it wider. Please do. If you use top 10, just make a shift and switch to OWASP ASVS because that will actually be useful. Tell everyone that is the standard. Top 10 is a marketing list. So, or it's a white paper. It is not a standard. I'm seeing, for example, in pen testing world, if you're doing any pen tests, so the CREST, the organization which certifies and accredits pen testing companies, is now starting to use OWASP ASVS as one of the levels to certify and accredit pen testers. And I'm seeing financial services organizations now using ASVS more instead of top 10.
Okay, I've got a question here. Maybe we need to sort of finish sort of soonish, but let's look at this one, Sam.
Advice would be helpful on how to get short strap training for developers that will inspire them for even more security training. I think Cornucopia is the go-to project, right? Start playing cards with them, right? We also have another project called Snakes and Ladders, right? So some fun activity you can do during the lunch break, which is non-intrusive. It's not something trying to shove security down in the throats. It's a fun thing which makes developers think about security concepts and challenges that usually they don't think about because it's just their brains work differently because they're focused on the delivery of the functional requirement, and I forget that there's also non-functional things what they should be caring about, like performance and security.
Yeah, no, that's good, and because I thought that was a really good question. Obviously, someone wants to look at how do we do things here. Trying to attract the interest of the developers is absolutely where it's at.
Yeah, start playing games with them during the lunch break.
Okay, so David, do you want to just see where we are with the food, because and how close we are for that? So, anyone else? Any other questions or feedback? Yes. Thank you.
I've got one last question, Sam. Have you seen any sort of precedents of people using ASVS to drive requirements and do the whole shift left thing instead of it being a checkbox after delivery? Have we done this? Yes or no? It being plumbed in at design and architecture for these, an architect yourself.
Yes, that's right. It is happening. Again, sadly, I have to say it's financial services and regulated organizations because they have the requirement, right? So they have regulators, and there's a lot of debate about the regulation, but again, there are lots of organizations, like the organization today, which is building accounting software, and it's one of the largest accounting software organizations in the world. Developers have zero clue about top 10. SVS don't even start talking about this, right? They're agile, right? So my advice would be then take the attacker stories and user stories and inject them in the backlog. And we want to do it gently, like someone asked online. Start playing the cornucopia threat modeling game with them, so they start thinking, what can possibly go wrong with the application? That's what you should say. How you can shift the mindset.
Just a brief comment, then question. In cybersecurity certifications, OWASP usually are the mentioned OWASP. CompTIA definitely.
Yeah.
I think certifications as well. So just useful.
It's good.
Yes, of course, we need to.
Again,
Challenges the developer don't.
No.
That's the challenge.
And so, which is good news. But again, I encourage you to look out now that you learned. OWASP is a friendly community, and we don't threaten anyone. If you see a product, I only watched a marketing video yesterday. We mitigate all OWASP threats. Go away. It's like you got it wrong. It's like we protect your organization from OWASP attacks. You just Google for OWASP threats or OWASP attacks. It's like you do it yourself. I'm not gonna do it online, but I don't want to name any companies, but you'll recognize some of them.
And only a slight wink would do basically.
So before we wrap up, I think the most interesting question, which kind of challenged me, I think came from Moses, and that was about why don't we do it every year? So it was, congratulations, you got the book from me.
Huge thank you to Sam for coming along here tonight. He shared an awful lot of really encouraging and inspiring material. There's so much there. It's clearly he's gone through it at a fairly rapid pace, which is good, I think, because that keeps us on our toes. But there's a lot to take in. If I saw people taking slides, pictures of the slides, that's absolutely great. If you want to do that, we will publish the slides, but it'll be a couple of weeks' time or so before they're available. Best place is go and have a look at the OWASP website, and it's pretty easy to consume.
That's right. And again, do not start from top 10,
Yeah.
start from cheat sheets, please.
Yeah,
Start
the
from the
cheat
bottom.
sheets are great. So again, thank you very much to Sam, and